Hello everyone and welcome back to PAX and Recreation. And today, the final day has come because after a long time, we're going to review the Commander decks from Modern Horizons 3. There are no modern decks, just Commander decks, which is weird. And to your delight, I also have the collector ones, which, funny enough, the box is smaller, which I don't know if you can fully appreciate given the size, and also feels more premium because it's, in the box instead of a sticker. I don't know. So, what is in the box? What's in the box? Well, this is not new to me because, remember, because I'm a masochist, every time that we do these videos, I already played with them for a while, which normally more or less a month, I guess, because that's like 4 Commander nights if I am not very lucky, 5, 6, or 7 Commander nights if I am very lucky. And you know what they say, once you're married, 1 Commander night a week, that's good enough. So these are the 4 decks of the apocalypse, the Modern Horizons decks that are not Commander Masters decks, even though they really feel like it. I have mixed feelings towards the boxes. We're going to open the normal ones, which, well, good thing I'm going to open them. See, already scratched right off the box. You saw it. I had the tape that said like, "Oh, don't open these." If see, like. Good thing we don't care about this cardboard. We only care about the external cardboard. Now, just for reference, I have the others here. As you can imagine, my playtest wasn't done with these ones because I am not rich. Please like and subscribe. But yeah, so they are pretty, or prettier, I guess, is the correct way of dividing this. I'm going to show you the boxes, nothing crazy. I'm not going to open them unless you specifically request so. The boxes are smaller, which certainly feels very weird because you know the trophy theory, or what some experts call the PlayStation 3 theory. Well, I will let you ready for some trivia. So technically, the trophy theory is this concept that whenever you want to make something feel more premium, besides, making it shiny or foil in our case, because we collect cards, you make it heavier, right? So a lot of trophies are just plastic or some sort of plastic or some sort of material that is really not very heavy. Contrary to popular opinion, or what you may think if you never saw a trophy in person, they are not made of gold, they are just golden. But to make the trophy feel like it, is more valuable, or like it's worth whatever it is that it's representing, normally the bases of the trophies are weighted. That means that makes the trophy feel heavier and you feel, more accomplished, because it's like, oh my god, this thing is so heavy. It certainly is worth its weight, right? That's where the expression comes from. Now, in the world of consumer electronics, that happened with the PlayStation 3 as well. The PlayStation 3 was absurdly big and heavy on purpose, and a lot of people said that it was one of the just ways of Sony justifying the $600 release price, and people wouldn't feel, robbed by it, because they could have made the PlayStation 3 smaller in some way or capacity, same with the 5, but you know what they say, if it's not heavy or big, you will feel scammed, and they don't want you to feel scammed. So there you go. That's the trivia for today, because this video wasn't long enough. So regarding the Commander decks, yes, this is the new style of boxes. I don't dislike them. I certainly think they look better with non-human or unconventional things. These two, and this only talks in favor of the artists for sure, but these two feel like people doing cosplays, which, nothing against cosplay, but yeah, so again, that only speaks about the quality of the artist, because it's like, oh, it almost looks like a person, right, taking in a photo shoot. So it is what it is. Obviously, these ones are prettier, even though they are smaller. That's why the box is smaller as well. See, this box is beautiful. and very shiny. And same for all the others, although in these ones, I think that these two are not as favored, and then this one really picks up the pace. We can review this in another video. So long story short, because otherwise, imagine if you're already familiar with this channel. I mean, you know me. So imagine myself. You already know how long it takes for me to talk and open and talk about 4 decks. And yes, it's true that, you know, if we're doing the collector ones, I'm not going to talk about the cards themselves because we already saw them. It's just about the treatments. But it is what it is. So if you want to see these, or want to see a comparison, or whatever, if you want to see me burning them, leave a comment down below. That is a very prohibited thing for a lot of people, so we're going to focus on the normal ones, because this is what most likely you're going to get, at least some of them, because these ones are at a reasonable price, and these ones not so much, and a month, more or less, depending on when this video is published, already passed, and the prices are what they are. Now, I need to talk to you about my experience or my expectations when I bought this and before playing with them. And then as we unveil them, or like I show you the cards and we just talk about them. In case you're new to this channel, yes, I'm late to the party. Yes, I realize that likely if I want to play test them and do the review on time, the best way of doing it will be just to play on cockatrice or something with the decks as soon as the deck list is revealed. But I really like the commander feel of it, and sometimes, since I normally buy all 4 of them, and please Wizards, don't make more than 4, because when you make 5, it's just impossible to pull these off. When you make 2, I guess we can do something with it, but don't make more than 4. Even more now that you release a commander deck every month, a set of commander decks every month. When you have 4, you can actually play with your entire pod, and your entire pod plays with the decks, so you can see all the decks interact with each other, which is also very cool. Plus, you know, I love playing Magic digitally. I think to a degree that's the future, and it's the more eco-friendly thing and less speculatory. But, you know, we all love cardboard, that's why we're here. So it is what it is. Now, I play with them for a while, and what we're going to do is I'm going to open them. And as I, talk about highlights and cards and so on, I will talk about how the deck feels, how it plays, pros, cons. And, if you want to see the prices of cards or something like that, just go watch the professor's video, because it's a lot better than anything I could do in my life and a lot more timely. So, if a card I talk about gets your attention, just check the card, I guess. That's kind of the vibe that we go here. It's more of a friend explaining you how it feels to play with the deck. Now, my expectations going into these decks, if you recall correctly, link in the corner or somewhere, we also did the Commander Masters decks. And I remember when I did that video that I was very static with the Commander Masters decks, because I was like, oh boy. Can you imagine like a Commander Masters decks? Like, come on. And they were like more expensive, like $80, right? Or something like that. And it was 60. Well, we don't know because they don't have recommended price. So, but like, I remember going like, man, it has to be freaking crazy. Plus they did this like showcase style that we also have for Modern Horizons 3, which really makes Modern Horizons 3 feel more like Commander Masters 2. Featuring Modern, because some of these things broke Modern. But the thing here is, when I saw this, I was like, oh man. And the thing that gets me the most excited about these Commander decks are 2 things. One, if they are designed by Gavin, like the Doctor Who ones, which to this day, some of my favorite decks ever are in that set. So the designer kind of matters, which is funny because sometimes you know who designed the deck, sometimes you don't know. And I think that Wizards should just like publish it more and be like comic books or something. And it's like, oh, this is by Todd McFarlane. You're like, oh, okay, so I want that because I like that artist. So here is similar. It's like everything is play tested at Wizards as a team effort, but whoever leads the set kind of gets more interest from you. Also, that happens with the Commander decks. Obviously, they don't want to do that because they don't want this to become like a Hideo Kojima game kind of thing. But, the other thing that steers me towards the decks is the concepts, right? So, like, everyone can make a +1/+1 deck, and everyone can make a typal deck, or, well, tribal, but now we call them typal because we're cool. So, when they release a new deck, like from Bloomborough or whatever, and the whole deck is like, well, other I don't know, other birds you control get +1/+1, or like you do new decks or something. It's like, oh, new other humans, that type of thing is interesting. They do a twist here or there, but it is what it is. However, when they do interesting things like the Doctor Who timey-wimey deck that is like, okay, we're going to go for a weird mechanic and we're going to make it our own, which is the suspend mechanic, that really thrives with me, right? So imagine that you don't know anything about Magic, you're going to the store or you're watching online and you see these 4 decks. Now, the first thing that's going to go into your head is another Eldrazi deck, and apparently it's because people just freaking love Eldrazi and Slivers, apparently, which is why they released those 2 for Commander Masters. And I can tell you, from playing a lot with them, again, both me and my friends having them, Commander Masters is, like, I think that the best deck from Commander Masters, as it is from the box, is the one from Anictea, the one from Enchantments. The Eldrazi one and the Sliver ones are good, but maybe they are too good, because what happens is at the moment you put the deck box inside on top of the table, people just target you, so it is what it is, and they are not that crazy. And then you have the Planeswalkers one, which I am the only living soul on the planet that actually likes it in so much that I bought 2, well actually 3, because the one I play with, the one you saw on the channel, and I have another one, just to make like the ultimate version of that deck. And I still wish to this day that the commander from that deck, like whose name I forgot, I have it here, Commodore Guff. See, I even have another one close. This is how much I like this deck. It also helps that no one likes this deck, and it's like $25 or something. So it really helps you, helps your case that no one likes it. And yes, I know playing with Planeswalkers is a thing, but for me it's kind of interesting because you have to defend the 2 barriers. Whatever. That's another video. Check that video. I talk a lot about that. Now, I like those topics, like, oh, a 5-color deck with Slivers, a no-color deck with Eldrazi, and then enchantments in a color combination that was missing to have like a strong representative, and then a Planeswalker one. Crazy. Now for Modern Horizons, just by looking at the boxes, okay, like just looking at the boxes, not the art, but like the description, because I actually like this new format that Wizards has. It's like okay, these are the colors, this is the name, these are the strategies, right? Or this is the main topic of the deck, right? Looking at these, you go like, okay, Eldrazi, boring, because start small, Eldrazi smash. It's like boom, boom, boom. The only thing that really catches your eye is that it's 5 colors plus colorless, so 6-color deck. If you want to consider color as a color, which is the same as saying that white is a color because it's all colors and black is a color because it's no colors, but you get the point. You look at this and go like, well, maybe this is interesting, and this is interesting, we will check in a second. Then the other 3, although the idea is boring because it's Eldrazi again, but Modern Horizons 3's whole focus is on Eldrazi, as you can see in the box that we opened, and the 3 Eldrazi being the main focus again. So we have these 3, and these 3, we're going to talk in a second, but energy counters, which I already talked in the Fallout video, check the Fallout video for that. There was a setup for this one. This is just Graveyard Overdrive. Fill your graveyard, avenge the dead, which is not really what the deck does. We're going to check that in a second. And this one was interesting because you had these twin ladies or something, and it's tricky terrain. Ramp lands, grow value. It's like, well, it's just ramping. And to check that in a second as well. Now, let's start with, I guess, alphabetical order. So C, G, E, T is going to be the alphabetical order. Let's start opening Modern Horizons decks as I talk about them. So first, Creative Energy. Creative Energy is likely the least loved deck of them all. So I guess it's fitting that we're going to open it first. The box is getting smaller and smaller, which I like because it's just wasteful. Battle your friends with powerful creatures and spectacular spells in Commander, blah, blah, blah. With Satya, which is, I have to say, is not the most original name. And it's kind of, I know that it's not Kaldheim. What's the name of the plane that is all steampunky? Cash. God damn it. Cash. I'm getting old. I had to go check the bundle to see the name. So Kaladesh, we know that Kaladesh has these Indian influences. So I guess that's kind of where this thing is going as well. So now they only show you a card, which is the commander. So they are really doubling down on the whole. If you're buying this, you already saw it online, right? Which is kind of weird because then it should be less showy. I don't know. Plus, this is expensive enough so that people just won't buy it because. So, eccentric architect Satya is known for inventing the Ether Flux Reservoir, helping to usher the Great Ether Boom. So, long story short, this is an energy deck, and I have some feelings about it. Pull the plug on your foes. Love it. Let's see what the format is here. So first thing that we have to say, I guess, is yeah, the premium commander decks are the same, just with a lot of more foil treatment in the cards, that special foil, and then some cards have this cool new thing, I guess, that is that like special treatment, like wide full art treatment. It's kind of meh. Like also you pay a lot more for a premium deck, which is more or less the same as the Warhammer 40k decks that, you know, were like full foil and all that. And they also come with a collector booster sample. They don't come with a full booster. Like, come on, Wizards. Come on. Again, to my disappointment, the life counter is just generic, which is, I mean, okay, let's be honest. Satya is not going to be, by any means, my most beloved, you know, commander ever, maybe. Aesthetically, I mean, which, again, not all planes have to be this weird fantasy thing, right? That's why we have, like, Dosmorn and Bloomborough and all that. But, you know, not the most appealing look. And then you have two mini dividers or whatever, or tokens or status or whatever, one with the Planeswalker symbol and the other with the set symbol. And just some counters, Planeswalker symbol and +1/+1, nothing too crazy. And then I'm not going to do this detail for all of them. I'm just going to do it for the first, and then just read the inserts. So, as usual, one thing that I like a lot is that they have at least 2 pieces of art for the commander. Now they have, well, the one in the box, which is the same as the one in the cardboard, which is the same here. So they're getting lazier because they used to do 3, and this is one in the card, if I recall correctly. So Satya, the Ether Flux, yeah, and this is the same drawing. So yeah, you know, Wizards. I mean, yeah, I acknowledge it that in Wizards they did like 3 arts and they only use 1 for the card or something, and it was kind of wasteful. But come on, we're losing the magic in Magic the Gathering. Come on, guys. So creative energy. You have the summary here. We're ready to assemble some engines. The energy mechanic makes a return, and there is no shortage of ways to use energy counters through Satya and a host of other outlets. So you can, like, long story short, this is an energy deck. You can choose when to use your energy or just have a lot of energy and use it later down the road. Again, your call. Not much to do here. If you really love energy, it's going to be your thing. If you really don't, you're going to hate this deck with a passion. As the inventor of the Ether Flux Reservoirs, which, you know, it's kind of a big thing to just drop here. It's like, oh yeah, this guy deserves a commander deck. It's like, well, no shit. Like, I mean, the inventor of the Ether Flux Reservoirs? Come on. It's one of the 2 figures primarily responsible for ushering the era of the Great Ether Boom. So, very important. Through historians tend to overemphasize the role of Avati Via, who discovered who to harness in the first place. They realized it's an equal collaboration. So I guess, like, long story short, I mean, pause it and read it if you want, but I kind of like the angle that they're going for. That is like, you know, that whole Edison Tesla thing? Well, it's like, or like Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak kind of thing. It's like, well, there is another guy that people used to give it more credit to, but actually, this is the guy. Which, depending on how much lore from MTG you read, is either a shameless retcon or just whatever, right? So that's the box, that's the thing. This is an envelope that sadly we're not going to use for anything else. We're going to open the booster in a second. Well, like right away. It's a mini booster, it's a sample booster. It's a lie. You're never going to get anything meaningful from this. So be always wary of that. And whatever you get here is random. Oh, okay, you're like Fuse Atrocity, the commander of one of the other decks, in this case in a special treatment, which is something that we need to talk about in a second, and then Tireless Provisioner, which is not a bad card at all. Nice. In the foil treatment from the Commander Modern Horizons 2 retro foil thing. So not bad. Not a bad pool for a sample pack. One thing that we need to discuss is what happens here and how sometimes Wizards is just going too fast for their own good. An example of this is related to, well, the type of cards. So the last cards, with the last Commander decks we opened, that were not the Fallout ones. So, which, you know, sounds like a long time ago, but it isn't. It is not. Actually, I'm doing this, like a little bit of like behind the scenes magic from you. I am doing this video, and I am already thinking, oh my god, I am late with Assassin's Creed stuff. And yes, mind you, this is not. I can open this with gloves, yet I continue to insist on doing it. So, mind you, this is not the channel for a speedy news. Like, if you want speedy news, you go with Magic Historian, I guess. Which, you know, great guy, good content, great sense of humor. If you want, you know, better reviews or anything, just go to the Prof or the Nitpicking Nerds or something. I don't know. Like, this is the channel of that dude that you know that just talks a lot about stuff that no one really cares about. So this is the deck, right? And you can already see one thing that they were supposed to not do anymore, which is the plastic card. The plastic card is back, but I'm assuming it's only back for this set. And then from Bloomburrow and Duskmorn is away again. So, or maybe this is a strategy for some cosmic reason. But remember that the idea was like, you don't get this card anymore. In exchange, you get the two commanders in full art, or at least the main commander in full art. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool, I guess. But in this case, Wizards did something that I'm really not a fan of. I actually think that kind of a jackass move, to be honest. Which is, they didn't do that because they want you to buy collector boosters. Like, for example, this card only comes in a collector booster. When we open the Eldrazi Incursion, which is the next one, this is not going to be the art of Ulalek. So, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It could come with this card, it would be great, but they're like, no. You get the normal art, which is kind of dynamic. Same happens with Satya, right? Like, it's like a angle drawing. It's not like, you know, normally the commanders are like front and center kind of thing, and he's like doing his own thing. And yes, you have a Satya commander profile card, right? Which is, it has this art. So, you know what I mean? like they just want to bleed you for that. And you may be thinking, well, but if you bought the collector ones, right, the shiny ones, you're not going to have that problem. Like, that's not a problem. And it's like, well, sorry to tell you, it is a problem. Because if you buy, like, if you open the other ones, you will realize that all of them come with special treatments, but not those treatments, except the Eldrazi one, which for some reason doesn't come with the foil cards. And they were like, oh yeah, it can't. And it's like, it can. It is in the collector boosters. Like, they said something about the art not being doable for full art or something, and then the cards are in the collector boosters. So it's like, bam. So again, Wizards, I don't care that you do this shit of, like, you know, over gachaing the gacha game that you already created. So I don't care that you abuse, because at the end of the day, you just buy it if you want, and if you don't, like, whatever. Like, you know, there are proxies and you can play online, like, you know what I mean? But if you're releasing a premium product, and in the case of the collector boxes, the premium product, why don't you just give me the freaking cards, Wizards? Like, come on. Like, there has to be a limit to that. I mean, yeah, but so that aside, well, you know the game that we normally play that is like, oh, let's look at the tokens and we can guess what this deck is about. Well, there's not much of a point here because we already know what the deck is about. Energy. So you have an energy reserve, a bunch of servos, Etherborns, servos, illusions, servos, Phyrexian Mirror, servos, copy, treasure, which is kind of a weird art, copy, gremlin, copy, gremlin, copy, top there, construct, mirror, and Etherborn, top there. So you already know what the deck is about. We just need to read the commander. So what is the commander doing? Satya, Etherborn, Genius. For 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white. It's a legendary creature, human artificer. It has menace and haste, which feels kind of overpowered. Whenever Satya Etherflux Genius attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of up to 1 other target non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice that token unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So, you know what this deck is all about. So we're going to see all the other cards, and it's going to become very clear that, you know, it's an energy deck. But Satya is an interesting commander that it's fun that the characterization that they do for him in the insert is like, oh, he's a mad genius and he's like restless, and this effect is kind of very aggressive, which doesn't feel like, doesn't feel like the guy. It feels like in this image, I don't know what the freaking dude he's doing, but it feels like he's fixing something. It doesn't feel like he's battling, and yet the card really just is like whenever Satya attacks, you create clones and you keep attacking, and you can keep them if you pay energy, but if not, you just get energy, which is very good. Now the co-commander or the secondary commander or whatever you want to call it is a different beast. In this case is Keith, Famed Mechanist, which funny enough also has a profile or feature or whatever. And I'm divided into which are I like the best. I think that, like, also fun note, I prefer Satya without the beanie. The beanie just like, come on, what is this? Like, Magic the Gathering or like Parappa the Rapper? So Keith, Fame Mechanist, same cost as Satya. So 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white, legendary creature, Dwarf Artificer, 3/3. It has Fabricate 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1, which is crazy, and you can pay 2 and tap her, choose 1. You can either populate or you can proliferate. So Satya is a good commander, but Keith, you can go places with Keith because it creates a colorless servo, and then other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1. So again, non-token creatures, that's the big problem here. Otherwise, this thing could go freaking crazy. But you can just pay 2 and tap her and do either populate or proliferate, plus other things that have Fabricate. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you either create +1/+1s or create more servos, so you have more stuff to do. And that is actually crazy because Satya, and this is where we're going to spend more time, right? The rest of the cards are where they are, but like Satya is more of a focus thing. It's just like attack, energy, attack, energy, attack, energy, attack, energy, and just like keep adding stuff to your reserves. But Keith is more of a tactical play, I will say. You keep fabricating and you keep adding stuff, and you can populate or proliferate. You can go one roll. Basically, you can have them being bigger because everyone has +1/+1s, or you can just multiply, right? So it's a very crazy engine. Funny enough, they kind of can work together, but I feel like they step on top of each other. Like if for some cosmic reason you manage to pull both, yes, they benefit from the same because both are using non-token creatures as like their fuel, and for sure proliferating increases the energy counters. So it is what it is. But Keith just feels like a more tactical commander, in my opinion. Well, Satya is more like boom, 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 let's go. And that is reflected in the deck. So we have some new cards, not a lot of them. It's like, I think like 10 or something like that. 10 or 20, I can't recall correctly, we will see. So Sphinx of Revelation, you can see that the whole thing is, in this deck, is energy, energy, energy. So again, as I said at the beginning, if you like energy tokens, welcome to paradise. If you don't, welcome to hell, because this thing is all about it, right? Like, whenever you gain life, you get that many energy counters, that's good. Although you don't have that many other mechanisms to trigger it, as it comes outside the box. Whenever it enters a battlefield, you get more energy. Whenever it attacks, you may pay energy and you do stuff. So all the new cards, or the new specialized cards, are all about, well, energy. It's not even. It's kind of obvious. Now, you may be thinking, like, fun fact: this thing totally goes into the Doctor Who deck, Hourglass of the Lost, because you put a time counter on it, and then you can remove X counters from it, and return stuff from the graveyard to the battlefield. Which kind of doesn't make sense here. Like, I guess it makes sense because you have engines for proliferation, but this card goes strictly right there into the Doctor Who deck. Like, it's whatever. Then again, like, not because it is an energy deck, everything has to have energy costs, but it kind of has. Otherwise, it feels weird. And you can see that Blaster Hulk, Salvation Colossus, everything does the same, right? You have, whenever they enter, they give you energy, or you can make it cheaper by having energy, and you can use energy to do their secondary abilities or their crazy attacks. That's kind of all about the deck, right? Creature spells you cast have Demonstrate. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. This card is kind of weird in this deck, because except for a few cards in this deck, why would you give a copy to your opponent? But it is what it is. Overclocked Electromancer, again, energy, energy, energy. Now, fun fact is, if you recall, when we did the Fallout decks, Gonti's Either Heart, which is great. If you recall, when we did the Fallout Commander decks, I was saying that, it's like, oh, we have an energy deck here, which is a science one, if I recall correctly. And it really feels half-baked, which is interesting. And my prediction back there, it was like a month ago or something, or 2 months or whatever, was like, you know what, this feels like half a deck. Like, cool things are here, but there is not enough, horsepower here. And lo and behold, this is the answer. By the way, Biden of Thassa, which is a card that it's here, I guess, because you have a lot of red things to force the hand of your creatures by attacking right away with haste or whatever. So again, there are some cards here that are useful, but not that much. Like, it becomes a Phyrexian mirror. Obviously, you need to have some fuel because all your commanders both depend on non-token creatures. You get a Goldspan Dragon here, which is okay. I guess they wanted to add some value to the decks, and this is where you can tell that you can tell when Wizards wants to make a premium product and when they don't, because this card has no reason whatsoever to be in this deck besides the value. Right? Like, oh yeah, well, we need to make this deck valuable, otherwise people are not going to buy it. And because Goldspan Dragon doesn't need to be here, it's a treasure token card. Like, this deck doesn't operate with treasure tokens. Like, don't get me wrong, treasure tokens are useful always because mana, right? But like, it doesn't synergize with the rest of the deck besides the whole, well, it's a Goldspan Dragon. Like, the deck has a lot of things like this that is just like, well, I guess you wanted to put some value here, right? Creatures you control have Myriad. It's like, oh, okay. So this is okay, because if you combine this with Satya or with Kaith, I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, this is actually an interesting multiplication effect, but Akroma's Will as well is like, oh, okay, like, thank you for the card, I guess. So this is one of those instances where shock lands or some sort of shockland, because there's not really a shockland. This is a semi-shockland. Shocklands, you pay 1, go search the actual land. Here is, you can go 1 or the other and it deals damage to you. So I guess people, this is also a shockland. Add 1 mana of any color, put a charge counter on Coalition Relic. It's a good thing that you have proliferation in this deck. That's anything that I can say. See, like, Either Works Marvel. Thank you for this card. Angel of Invention. Thank you for this card. Like, why are they here? Like, okay, it has Fabricate. The theme is like steampunk thing. It's not only energy. Come on, PAX. It's not because of that. It's not because it's an energy deck. All the cards need to be energy cards. But that's the thing. They kind of do. This is the thing that really, like, I will give anything to sit in at a design table when they design these decks. Like Midnight Clock. What is Midnight Clock doing here besides things, I guess, because, you know, like, this could go in any other deck, and yet it is here. Professional Phrasebreaker, that's a very good card. Again, it gives you treasure tokens, so that's cool. Farewell, which now has a counterpart that is actually in one of the other decks. Thank you for giving me removal against everything, but again, the Solemn Simulacrum of all things, like, you can tell, like, the mana is better than in most decks. You have a lot of shocklands or a kind of shocklands that is like, well, does you 1 damage and then you have scry 1 lands. This happens across all the decks. Like, again, PreCons. So since they are PreCons, you are not going to get like super duper mega value here because it is what it is. But I will give anything to just sit at the design tables when they are designing these decks, because the more you play Magic, the more you play Commander, the more you see the products being released, the more you kind of can see the story of designing the deck in your head. You know, like how it evolved. Why I'm saying this? Because of the whole philosophy. Like, one thing that we already saw in multiple of our videos is, well, a lot of times the Commander decks have 2 decks inside of it. It's like they tried to do one thing and then they were like, nah, we're not going to commit 100% to it. We're going to do something else. And Wayfarer's Bubble, Swords to Plowshares, like all the classics. There are a bunch of lands, which, you know, not bad. The mana base could be better, but that's always the problem. Like, if you hear me or anyone else being like, oh, the mana base could be better, and you don't get it, and you're like, oh man, like, what do you mean? It has all the mana that you need and all that, and maybe it has too many lands, because, you know, rookie mistake when building a Commander deck is not putting enough lands because you want to put everything else. Actually, the lands is the tricky part in deck building, to be honest, right? So the whole thing with this deck, if you want to see what the difference is between a competitive deck and like a CEDH and a normal deck, just add the expensive lands, and that's suddenly your deck, which is like $100 or $200, suddenly becomes like $500, $1,000, $8,000, because you add all the crazy mana, dual lands, and all that. The mana is what makes the difference. So here is like normal mana, and for this card, it really feels that it's between 2 places. One place is, and funny enough, with this one, right, with Creative Energy, it's a weird dilemma that I haven't felt yet. And we were going to see that in the others, but basically, it's a fun deck, but it feels halfway there. Like, playing with this deck feels like, it doesn't feel that much like a precon. It feels more like you had some cards in your house that were energy cards, and you get this new commander that is energy based, and you're like, oh, I'm going to build a deck around this commander, and you have some energy cards, so you do kind of half of your deck, and then the other half of your deck, you are like, I guess I better put the best cards that I have in these 3 colors, and you put like Goldspan Dragon, the other Angel, all the mana base that you can pull. Is like, okay, cool, Solemn Simulacrum, like just pull like all the hits, which is interesting because that's weird. Like normally, again, commander decks, you can check this in like all the previous commander decks that we reviewed. It always feels like two clear defined themes, like, oh, like +1/+1s, and then these things. Like, and normally you can feel the difference between the two commanders. Like the two commanders kind of pull separate ways, and you can tell like, okay, the deck is like 50% this one and 50% this one, or like 70% this one, 30% this one. And sometimes, which is even worse, is like 33, and then something else, which is like other cards that don't really sit with any of the commanders. In this case, both commanders cost the same, and they kind of use the same resources. They just go at different angles about it. Like Satya is all about attacks, and you can just switch them freely. Like the deck will work with both of them, which is kind of a problem. If you can do that, that means that the deck is not, fully optimized for any of them. Like with Satya, it will work, it will force you to attack, and it will put more emphasis on energy, while Kaith, I don't know, it's all about spawning things and just adding more value on your board in exchange for, proliferating from time to time. Obviously, you can optimize them greatly, and Kaith is the type of thing that if you have, things that multiply triggers, or you can untap her just to tap her again, her abilities are very good, because populate and proliferate are certainly good. Now, the deck kind of feels 50-50 in the sense that you have a lot of energy cards, and you have a lot of, artificer cards, which is like, servos and machines and shit like that, which is like, okay, but this is, by all means, an energy counters deck. Creative energy counters. It's all about energy. Everything says energy. The guy is the guy that invented the whole energy thing. So, like, what's my problem with this deck? Well, when you play this deck, you realize that it's not a bad deck by any means. I mean, it all depends always on the price point that you get these decks. Like this deck, for the normal price of a commander deck, $35, it's like, okay, pretty good deck. But for more than that, it's like, even more, because it doesn't feel premium. It feels premium in terms of reprints, and that was one of the big things when it was released. Is like, oh, but it has cards that you can sell. I mean, if you're into that, sure. But and amazingly, you can actually remove those cards from the deck, and the deck still works. Because what you're going to do is you need to get this deck and the Science deck from Fallout and just mix and match. Because funny enough, both of them are blue, red, and white. So, it's in the cards. Like a lot of the cards that are going to be an extra, if you don't want the value cards, are basically like cards that are doing whatever, or the value cards. Like there are a lot of treasure tokens and stuff like that is like, why is this here? And it really feels, more than any other deck that we have done so far, it really feels like, oh yeah, we just added them because we needed to add value to these decks, because people look at how much the cards inside are valued, and therefore the stores can make the price difference. Now, in defense of the stores, even though I don't like scalpers is another thing. Like, even though I don't like scalpers, the thing that you have to understand is, even a normal store, even if they don't want to scalp you, they kind of need to scalp you. And why do I say this? Well, the reason I said this is as follows. There are two types of store owner, right? You have the store owner that, also is a sneaky seller player, which is like, he knows what this is. Like, if it's like a local game store, obviously they know what this is. Like, it's not like, oh, okay, a new product. It's not like a supermarket or something, or like a toy store. It's like, oh, okay, another Magic product, and they don't care. No, they obviously know what's inside, what product this is, and what the release is. Now, Wizards sells them these things at a premium because these are better decks, and they have to sell them at a premium because these are better decks. Now, the fun thing is, when the store buys the commander decks, they come like the box I showed you at the beginning. It's an entire box that comes with all the, decks. So what happens is, if everyone wants this deck and no one wants this deck, this is the same box. So let's say that, I don't know, let's assume in a perfect world, it's like, okay, each deck, I don't know, $30 retailer cost, I don't know. It is more actually, it's like 40 something because these are more expensive, but let's assume $40, right? So retailer price, $40, let's assume is less, but you get the point. So $40, and it's like, okay, so you buy the entire box, and it's like, okay, so 40 times 4, 160. So $160, which is not, again, like, likely for them is like 30, 20 something the entire box, like per deck or something, right? So, but again, well, let's assume $20 for easiness. Like, okay, so if each deck is $20, which is not, but you have 4, so $80. They buy the box for $80. Now they're putting them on sale. What happens? Everyone wants this, no one wants this. So they know that they need to sell, I don't know, they will sell 10 of these, but maybe they're going to sell 1 of these to someone like me or someone that really likes energy tokens or something. So if they buy 10 boxes, they're going to have a surplus of 10 here, or 9 or whatever, because everyone wants this and maybe the other one, but no one wants this. So what stores do a lot of times to compensate for the dead stock is they scalp you, right? Because that's the logical option. The less logical option is, if they don't do it, then let's be honest, for a store, it's a lot better to just receive these on the date that they receive the boxes, open them, sell the cards individually, get a lot of money from them, and that's it. Because these decks are made in a way that before the decks are released, the cards inside are always, or most of the times, more valuable than the entire deck. So if you're a big card store, yes, you can just, and a lot of card stores do this. They just buy a bunch of them, open them, sell the cards individually before the date or right in the day. They make some cash, and then they have some to sell closed. And the ones that they have to send closed, they have to compensate, because if this box with the 4 of them cost me, I don't know, $100, I need to make money on this. And this sold right away, but this is going to sit there for a long time, and likely I will have to drop the price. So this deck, maybe no one wants it for 60. So maybe I have to put it at 50, and no one wants it for 50. So maybe I have to put it at 40 or 35, and I put it at 35, and it starts selling. But actually, in this case, no one will put it that cheap because of the cards that it has inside, because again, wizards put value in the cards and the stores are not stupid, so there is that. But let's say that this one sits at 50. They are not going to sell it at less than 50 because they know the cards are inside, but no one's going to buy it. This one, they're going to buy it, and they know the cards that are inside. But even if the cards are not valuable, they are going to, put the price up because they want to compensate the rest of the decks that are in the same box. So they charge you 100 and something for this, and when someone buys it because they're like, oh my god, Eldrazi and all that, you kind of already made for the losses that they're going to have with the other decks, right? So that's kind of the logic that happens here. And that's why this is a complicated market. The second-hand market, or the secondary market, is just crazy. Even the stores are part of it. It's all a big mafia made of gacha. And you will think that in these products, of all freaking Magic products, these ones will be the ones with less speculation, because you can actually see the cards, and they reprint this to no end. Like, there's no special edition, there's no Warhammer collaboration, there's no Doctor Who collaboration. This is just decks for Magic. Like, there's no point. They can make them more expensive because Wizards won't acknowledge the price of the cards in the market, but they know the price of the cards in the market. So, and also the stores do. So they're going to make it more expensive, right? But it is what it is, and that's kind of the situation. In this case, Eldrazi Incursion, the next one alphabetically, because E, G, right? F, exactly, yeah. So let's see, same logic, not that much text, because they know what is here. Is like, according to legend, Ulalek is an Eldrazi that has only ever appeared once and reflects properties of the Titans Ulamog and Kozilek, which is a crazy way for Wizards to say, okay, we know we have 3 big Eldrazi. We know we put the 3 big Eldrazi in the main set, but we need to sell these. But we don't want to put, Ulamog, Kozilek, or I forgot the name. Forgot the name of the other one. Damn it. We don't want to put any of the three big ones in the box, so we make a fusion. Why not, right? What's the text in the bottom? The end of the rainbow and all life. Now, this is an interesting concept, right? If creative energy is a deck that will just burn your time because it's it's a big mana play deck. It's all about energy, and likely for it to be at its best potential, you need the Fallout decks. I mean, you don't need the Fallout, but you need the Fallout decks. Like, if you want to like quickly assemble a very good deck, just buy the two. Like, otherwise, of course, hunt the singles that you want, and you will get a very interesting, deck. But there are not that many energy cards. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of them got new ones for Commander, got done for Fallout, and now for that one. So here's same logic. Cool art. I think it's my favorite art because it's the less human-like, it's the more creative one, I guess. Same with the counters. Nothing too creative going on here. Now for the insert, the magic insert. We do love our inserts in this channel. Cool art. This is the card that can be extended. Wink, wink. Ulalek Fused Atrocity. The Planeswalker Ugin once compared the appearance of Eldrazi on a plane to the appearance of hands being dipped into a pool of water. That said, Ulalek is what happens when two Eldrazi Titans dip into a plane at the same location from the Blind Eternities. An amalgamation of Ulamog and Kozilek lineages. Ulalek's presence amplifies both the innate tendencies of... It's a fusion, guys. We know you like Dragon Ball Z, so there you go. Ulalek has only ever appeared once on a plane that has long since been reduced to a drained husk and whose name has faded from memory, aka Convenient. Since then, it's unknown if Ulalek as a being still exists, or if it came apart once aspects of Ulamog and Kozilek that made it up withdrew back into the Blind Eternities. Now, as far as this deck goes, you can see that there is not much text there because the Eldrazi are back on the rise. Is another Eldrazi deck, guys. And in this case, the only difference is that, well, you actually have color in this deck, so you can actually do an Eldrazi deck that uses color cards, because remember, your commander deck is limited to the colors that your commander has on the card. It doesn't have to be the mana cost, but it has to be on the card. And that means that every time you need to do an Eldrazi commander, that's it, you need to play colorless. Now let's see the collector booster sample, let's see what we get. So in the other one, we got Ulalek, so maybe it's fair that in this one we get Satya, but that's only in a perfect world. Let's see what's up. Well, we got Kudo, so that's another commander. Kudo, King Among Bears, which is cool. And technically, this is also a card, like Wizards is doing this a lot, which is they are forecasting other sets. So we know that there is a bear card and there are a lot of bear combinations in Bloomburrow. So they're already being like, yo, you're going to use this one with the ones in Bloomburrow? It's like, sure, yes, thank you. And then Accursed Marauder, which is in foil and beautiful and kind of crazy because they are just too shiny. So not bad. The not badness continues. And then what the deck is about. So the cards, you have the card list online, so we're just going to talk about the biggest hits and how does it feel to play with this deck. Now, interesting, because I was not very excited about this deck, which, well, maybe you can tell, but the reason why I wasn't that excited about this deck is actually funny. It sounds like a Splinter in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I made that funny. So the reason why I say that this thing is what it is because, first time I see the magic trick, I go, the second time I go, okay, I guess, whatever, I don't care. In this case, let's see what the deck is all about, besides Eldrazi, Spirit, Eldrazi, Spirit, copy, Eldrazi Angel, which is kind of a cool token, not gonna lie. Doesn't look that much like an Eldrazi, to be honest, besides the fact that it has some tentacles and so on, but so it is. Copy, Eldrazi Angel, copy, Shapeshifter, in a interesting, cool art, Eldrazi Spawn, Eldrazi Scion, 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 which once you see the commander, you're going to get it. So what's up with this? We have two cards. Interesting plays on both. So Ulalek, or Ulalek, I guess, Fused Atrocity. So it costs 5 colorless and or colors. So you can just choose what you pay for it. And how many colors you want to play in your deck. It is the void, so it has no color, which is cool. And whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, copy all the spells you control, then copy all activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is why people are going crazy for this commander. Again, there is kind of a mixed bag of feelings here, because you read this and you go, oh, right? Like, I mean, this is a perfect Magic the Gathering card and it's not that expensive. So it's 5 colorless, or you can just put colors in there. So depending on how you build your deck, it's, not that difficult to pull. You can pull it fairly fast. And if you have the normal, Eldrazi mana engines, like the Commander Masters deck had, you can actually go faster than turn 5 to call your commander. Now, to compensate, Ulalek apparently is, not very big or strong, because it's only a 2/5, which for an Eldrazi is kind of bam, 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 bam. But whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, if you pay 2 more, which is kind of crazy because Eldrazi spells are already kind of expensive. Well, two colorless, which is specific. Like, remember, colorless and generic are not the same, even though both are gray. If you do, you copy all the spells you control, and then copy all activated and triggered abilities you control, which is, it can cascade crazy, which is funny because the other Eldrazi commander from the Commander Masters was all about cascade. So this is a thing that sounds very powerful, but I have to do a disclaimer here. If you are not a commander player that enjoys doing math and, switching things and don't buy this deck. Like, you're not going to enjoy it, and your co-players are not going to enjoy it, because, again, whenever you play a Eldrazi spell, to pay 2 more, and you copy everything you have. Spells, that means monsters. Well, monsters. What is this, Yugi? Like, it means creatures, it means enchantments, artifacts. Everything is a spell in Magic, remember that, except for lands. And you can copy all other activated and trigger abilities. So this is a lot of triggers. This is a very painful card to trigger every time. And if you don't know your deck and you're not good at, mental math, like just to be like, okay, this, your turns are going to be very long and people are going to hate you a lot. I can tell you, because the first time I played with this, I was like, so this isn't that, because I didn't know the deck. Now after that, it's like, okay, dun 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 dun, right? But kind of crazy. Now the second commander is not as pretty, or is prettier depending on your taste, I guess, is Aslak, or Aslask, the Swelling Scourge, or whatever. It costs 3 generic, so completely different shift compared to Ulalek. As a legendary creature, Eldrazi is a 2/2, and whenever Aslask, the Swelling Scourge, I love how they really have to put the tongue twisters in here, or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. And then you pay 1 from each color. Again, this can be swapped as your co-commander. I just don't like it when the co-commander is not compatible with the deck at all, because you need to, it doesn't work. In this case, it is, because again, it has the symbols here. That's the thing that a lot of people don't know. For you to use colors from your commander, it doesn't need to be here. It needs to be anywhere in the card, so this counts. Creatures you control get +X+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scions and spawns you control gain indestructible and annihilator 1 until the end of turn, which is kind of crazy. Now, different play, right? Ulalek is all about more Eldrazi, paying more, copying everything, craziness. Aslask is it's a thing that is there. I think this is more playable because it's cheaper and you can do some plays, and it's also 5 colors. It's more compatible with other Eldrazi things. I mean, both are very Eldrazi, friendly, but it's not like they are bound to this deck forever. They are pretty much compatible with everything, but every time a creature dies, you get an experience counter. Now, experience counters implies that this deck plays different from this one, or like this commander plays different from this one, and the deck goes in completely different directions, because here you want to keep stuff on the board and copy it, and then maybe you want to sacrifice the copies, in which case if you have both on the battlefield, this is perfect. This is the dynamic duo. One will copy everything, which then you can sacrifice, and when you sacrifice things, you get experience counters, which in turn, when you pay the mana, you can, go crazy, and everything has Annihilator and so on. So they kind of play well each other. But this is a completely different type of deck. Like here you want to copy and build, and here you just want to put your commander ASAP on the board and then start destroying stuff while you get the 5 color mana to just trigger it once and twice and thrice and just get your scions and spawns with indestructible. So they're not going to die, which doesn't trigger the first ability, but they get Annihilator 1, so you're going to destroy a bunch of other things. So different plays. Now that's interesting because the deck, and I think that's also one of the reasons why this deck is that expensive, is because it enables you to go 5 colors, or 6 if you want to count colors as a color, and then it can go both ways. Like both cards play the same, so the deck feels more cohesive compared to the other decks. Because it's just Eldrazi. Basically it's a tribal deck, right? But with Eldrazi, and people love Eldrazi because Hulk Smash. Literally, the people love Eldrazi because of what says in the box, Eldrazi Smash. Like they know their audience. Like that, I need to give that to them. People just love Eldrazi because, it's a 10-10 for 10. That's crazy. And it looks like Artorias for some reason, and it's Ulamog's Dreadsire. Creature Eldrazi Vigilance has Ward, sacrifice a permanent with mana value 1 or greater, which is great, and you can tap it and create a 10-10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. So once you have it, you don't need to tag with it. You can just tap it and just create more Eldrazi's and just spawn them against your enemy, which if your commander is any of them, you can see the combinations here, but with Aslask, every time they try to destroy it, you get more value. And then you have things with colors, right? So even though they have the void, because it is what it is. When you cast this spell, for each opponent, you choose a creature that player controls, create a token that's a copy. So you copy a lot of things, both yours and from other people. But besides that, is quote unquote a normal Eldrazi deck, in the sense that it's just like go big, go boom, and that's it. Target creature you control gains protection from each color at the end of turn, and overload for and 1 colorless. And it has flavor text, people. Like, we have flavor text in some of these cards, which is crazy. Selective Obliteration. Each player chooses a color. Then exile each permanent unless it's colorless or it's the only color you control. So again, as with the other Eldrazi deck, you have a lot of cards here that really lean on the whole color thing, because you're like, hey, I have no colors. And the cards that have colors have the void. So it's like, this is white. It's like, nope, it's not white, it's the void, so no color. This is an interesting one, Eldrazi Angel, Angelic Aberration. This is the reason why you have the Eldrazi Angel tokens. Bismuth Min Render, the void again. So you have like 1 from each color, I think. Yeah, red, black, blue. I think there is a green somewhere here in the new cards. There you go. So you have 1 from each color. It's kind of a cycle, and they put the entire cycle in the deck. It's not a cycle in the sense that they do the same, just changing the color that it works, but it's a cycle in the sense that it's like, okay, it's the card. Because, for example, Hideous Taskmaster has nothing to do with anyone else in terms of like, the void, has Trample, Haste, Annihilator 1, which everyone loves Annihilator. You can tell that Wizards is being shy with Annihilator in the commander decks, because they're like, it has Annihilator 1. This is crazy. This one has Annihilator too. It's like, Wizards, just go full commander. It has Annihilator 6, like the previous Eldrazi's of all time. And they're like, no, because people don't like Annihilator in commander. It's like, well, they don't like mana land destruction either. Just man up whenever you attack. Choose other. Even again, interesting effects, a lot of weird plays, and you have big Eldrazi and small Eldrazi, which is is interesting because these color combinations allow you for smaller Eldrazi, right? And Ugin is here because it's like colorless. Get me some Ugin. Like Ugin is always in these freaking decks because I mean he's the colorless boy, right? He's the one that started this whole thing, and it has the crazy ability. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 lives to cast, and then you have Ugin's Labyrinth, which is a very expensive card, which I think we pulled actually in the video. Check video in here, but great colorless spirits. That's where you have spirits, Eldrazi conscription. You could technically, because you may be thinking it, you could be thinking, wait, can I mix this deck and the other? Because you just said like, if you mix the Fallout deck with the energy deck, you get a full deck. So does that happen here? Like if I mix this Eldrazi deck with the Commander Masters Eldrazi deck, do I get a full deck? And that's interesting because I played with this one a couple of times and then I was like, wait a second, and then I pulled the other one. I didn't mix them because I have a shapeshifter, because why not? I didn't mix them in the sense that, I didn't like destroy both decks to get one cohesive one, but I was looking, like playing with one and playing with the other. They are compatible, but they are kind of different decks, and it feels like if you replace half of the cards here with half of the cards in the other commander deck, in the other Eldrazi commander deck from Commander Masters, it doesn't feel right, because if you notice, a lot of the cards here are kind of cheap, right? And the other deck is not like the other deck had, all expensive cards, but expensive in the terms of like mana value, not economic value, financial value. But the other was really leaning into your, your commander having Cascade. So it was playing cool, like, oh, you have Cascade, right? It's like, since you have Cascade, no one cares. You're going to cheat things as fast as possible. You're going to just try to rat your way out, right? Olamox Crusher, because why not? I remember the first time I saw this card, it was like, ooh, I wasn't that good at Magic. And, Beginner's Trap. Just like one color mana from each. Then you have a lot of dual lands and stuff like that. So the mana base here is not that bad. But this deck plays completely different from the point that, this one is not fully colorless like the other. So the other had some interesting lands that you may want to put in here because they are not here. You have a lot of flexibility here, a lot of changelings and stuff like that, and add to colorless and stuff like that. So some mana dorks, which is interesting for an Eldrazi deck, but you don't have like Urza's Factory or whatever the name of the 3-card combo is. So you can put those cards in here. They will work, but at the same time, you will feel kind of dirty because this deck is all about having colors as well, even though they are devoid. So that's an interesting combination. Now, my summary here for this deck feels more interesting than the previous one on paper. On practice, funny, because this one says start small, Eldrazi Smash, yet the other one feels a lot more like Eldrazi Smash. This one feels like Eldrazi Clone, like it has a lot of copies and stuff like that. So the idea is that you multiply in horizontally, not vertically. Yes, you have powerful cards, but it's not like, Olamox Crusher and so on. But you look at this and you see all those arms and you go like, oh, Eldrazi Smash. And you're like, oh man, he's going to have like the biggest, chunkiest cards. Like, it doesn't really. Like this deck is all about copying, going horizontally, and either accumulating or sacrificing, depending on which commander you go with. And that's it. Really, like there is no... Like it feels Eldrazi Smash in the sense that it is simple enough. I think that the main commander will like is kind of a pain in the ass if you don't know what the deck does and you have to like play your turn fast, otherwise people are going to hate you. But it's not very complex. It's just there. which is interesting. Like I get what people this is the most expensive deck and why people go crazy about it, but at the same time, it's like, guys, it's, you know, Monster Go Boom, like it's not the most creative deck ever. If anything, the color thing feels interesting for you to expand on it, and because now you're able to put color cards in an Eldrazi deck with an Eldrazi commander, and you can go crazy with your color cards, but it can backfire because a lot of the new cards are like, well, choose colors or stuff like that, right? So you can actually bite yourself because the cards that are in the deck are devoid, so they don't feel the colors, if you know what I'm saying. So kind of interesting. It I don't know. It feels. It's not like it's a brain dead deck, but it's just like, you know, well, I'm playing Eldrazi. Like, I don't know. I really feel like a hipster by saying, like, I don't know what you people see in that deck. Like, the deck is very simple. I don't get the point. Now this one, no rest for the restless. With Disa the Restless, Disa is a Kil'jaedoran explorer from Dominaria's Ice Age with a rare talent for timing the ferocious Yurgoyf. So the Yurgoyf and all these creatures, so you saw that, but remember when we saw the box, we only saw this, and we saw fill your graveyard, avenge the dead, and we're like, okay. The moment we saw that this thing had anything to do with Yurgoyfs, because it's in the description of the card, people went crazy, and for some people, this is the best deck. For some people, this is the worst deck. There is no middle point there. Jump them out. Yes, ma'am. So, not a fan of the art in the box. Nothing against the artist. I think the art as is amazing. Is more than a picture, actually. But it doesn't resonate with me. I don't know. So same logic here for the dividers or counters or whatever. Same for the counters in here. Deck. Deck box and so on. Everything. You know, it's good all with all. The life counter that is boring because they don't care about it anymore, which is, come on, Wizards, come on. They simplify the drawings. The life counter doesn't have the commander anymore. Like, what is this? Inserts here, very quickly. Nice art here of These Are the Restless. Was a Kil'jaedoran Explorer. I love it when they release commanders that are dead because it reminds you that, you know, Magic is past, present, and future. Ice Age on Dominaria. Apparently, this lady is referred in the lore text of other cards, so this is why we shouldn't abandon lore text or flavor text, people. Thought she had encountered Yurgoyfs beyond the Javima River before. It wasn't until her travels to Findorn Forest where she gained more first-hand experience on them. Boba. She's the lady that whispered to the Yurgoyfs, apparently. And how do you play these? In a very weird fashion. It's time to Jund them out. Jund is the color combination, right? Jund is a shard of Alara, but is also a lifestyle. Play the strongest cards, Eke? Every ounce of value out of them, and use all of your resources to succeed. In this deck, the most important asset is your graveyard. Try to fill it with all kinds of creatures and card types to grow your Yurgoyf army with the help of Disa the Restless and overwhelm your opponents. Now, you're either gonna love or hate this deck, brother. Like, there is no middle ground here whatsoever. Let me just... I'm just going to open this before we open the commander deck, because I need to put... There you go. This goes in here. This goes in there. Let me just remove all the cardboard. And now let's see what the sample booster is all about. There you go. Guide of Souls, not bad. Human Cleric, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you get 1 energy. This is from the first deck, so I guess. And Null Elemental Blast, which is a very Eldrazi card to have in your deck. Choose 1, counter target multicolor spell or destroy target multicolor permanent, which is not bad, and in foil. So, what is this deck all about? Let's see the tokens and let's try to find out. So, These are the Restless, and then you have Tarmogoyf. It's like, what? They have a Tarmogoyf token, but not a Tarmogoyf creature card, which is funny as hell. Tarmogoyf power is equal to the number of card types among all graveyards, and toughness is equal to the number +1. So literally, is a Tarmogoyf, but it's just in token shape. So they didn't give you the Tarmogoyf, but they give you tokens of it, which is a thing. So you see these, like look at this progression. You see these, and you go like, oh, Tarmogoyf? Oh, this is going to be a Goyf deck? You're like, okay, Goblin, interesting. Goblin, interesting. Saproling, interesting. Dragon, okay, that's interesting. Treasure, cool. Zombie, insect. Beast with Death Touch, which is the best type of beast. A Shapeshifter, which is a changeling. Then another dragon. You're like, okay, interesting. Shapeshifter. Then Garruk Apex Predator, which is like, or Predator, which is like, sorry, what? Garrus is in this deck? It's like, yes, man. Saproling, another dragon, and a copy. And you can already kind of see what's going to be the problem with this deck, sadly. Let's see the commanders. So you have two. These are the Restless and Koram the Undertaker. They don't cost the same, sadly. So these are the Restless, costs 2, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, and is a human scout that is a 5/6, which is not bad. And it reads, whenever a Lurgoyf permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, put it onto the battlefield. This is already a problem because you saw that we have 3 tokens for Tarmogoyf, and we don't have any Tarmogoyf. So if those die, you don't get any benefit from this, because remember, tokens don't go to the graveyard, it is what it is. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a Tarmogoyf token. Which, once you get some, you lose some. It's like, okay, cool. So this is all about having a lot of Urgoyfs, getting them die, I guess. Whenever in anywhere other than the battlefield. So whenever you discard or whatever, you put into the battlefield, which is okay. And whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to the player, you create a Tarmogoyf, which is okay. Then Koram, the Undertaker, is slightly cheaper. So 1 black, 1 red, 1 green is a 0/5 human warrior. And you can see how this changes the play. Basically, Koram the Undertaker gets +X+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards. Whenever Koram attacks, each player mills a card, and during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that were put in there from libraries this turn. So, completely different play styles, and sadly, even though I like the main commander, you will see in a second why this deck is really not fit for one thing more like so for the other. So if you see this and you see the Tarmogoyf tokens, and it says whenever a Lurgoyf permanent is put into the graveyard from anywhere under the battlefield, what comes into your head? 2 things come into your head. So thing number 1, we have a bunch of Lurgoyfs, that's crazy. And thing number 2, we have a bunch of cards to circumvent or to send stuff from my hand to the graveyard or so on, because, then I can cheat them into the battlefield. Because, again, this is the main commander. Now, if you see Koram is more of a generic commander that is kind of nice, and it kind of fits the deck, but it can't fit any deck with these colors, really, because, it gets +X+0, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards, so you just want to make people mill. And you need to play him later down the game, or just after milling a bunch of your creatures, because it's a 0/5, and you need to get that greatest power. Again, it's the greatest power, not a sum of powers or anything like that. So if your enemy is playing with Eldrazi, for example, this is amazing. Trust me, that happened. That's why it's cool to play with the 4 decks at the same time. But whenever it attacks, each player mills a card, which is good because it feeds him, and then you can play lands and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that were put into libraries this turn. So this is a very good engine. Doesn't have anything to do with the Lurgoyfs thing, but the deck also forgot that this is a Lurgoyf thing, because you have some cards here like that have, this has Cascade, is like cool. Then it has Haste, is like cool, I guess, and then it has Escape. So it's a very flexible card. It's a very modern card, I guess, but which it fits, it's Modern Horizons. But is like 3, 1 red, 1 green. You can exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, which is kind of counterintuitive because of the Yorgoyfs and Tarmogoyfs and all that. And this card comes from the graveyard, which is okay because it has Cascade, so you can try and pull something else. But it's like, sorry, are we playing Cascade? It's like, well, you can play Cascade. It's like, okay, cool, I guess. So let's go with the next one. It's like Broodmate Tyrant. It's like, cool, very expensive dragon, 4, 1 red, 1 black, and 1 green, 5/5. It's like, well, but it's okay because when it enters the battlefield, you create another dragon. There's a 5/5 with dragon, and you can do Encore. It's like, okay, so that's why we have so many dragons. That's okay. However, you can see how none of these cards so far, these are the new cards, they don't really match the commanders, do they? Like, Tempt with Mayhem, Tempting Offer, choose target instant or sorcery spell, each opponent may copy that spell. If you may choose any target for the copy you control. It's like, okay, cool card, I guess. Gluttonous Hellkite. This is interesting because Gluttonous Hellkite costs XX, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. So this card can get very expensive very fast. It's a 3/3. But when you cast this spell, each player sacrifices X creatures. Gluttonous Hellkite enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each creature sacrificed this way. So it's expensive to pull, and the cheapest you can do is basically for 5, and that means that everyone sacrifices 1 creature because it says each player, so it includes you. But if you actually have mana for it, you can kind of do a board wipe and then have a big ass dragon that kind of can clean the thing. But it doesn't have haste, so it has flying and trample. So only in the next turn, sits there as a target, it happens. This is a good engine for the other cards because it fits the graveyard, and that's okay. But again, feels like we're playing some other deck that doesn't have those commanders, which is weird. Then you have a Pyrogoyf, and it's like, cool, a Goyf, 4 cards in, because these are the new cards. The Pyrogoyf power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. Cool. Whenever Pyrogoyf or another Yorgoyf creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. This is very cool. Great. Then Polygoyf, you have another Yorgoyf creature. Great. Trample and Myriad. And then its power is equal to the number of cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal. Okay, great. Amazing. Barrowgoyf. So we're getting, this is like a sliver deck, but with Goyfs, which is great. Sadly, we only have 3 colors. There is not like a 5-color Goyf deck, but we're there. So Barrowgoyf, cool as well. They're not that expensive either, right? 3/1, 2/1, 2/1. Death Touch, Lifelink. So Barrowgoyf power is equal to the number of cards in your graveyard and then plus number 1, right? So same logic for everyone. Whenever Barrowgoyf deals combat damage to the player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among them into your hand, which not bad, right? And then you have a dinosaur. If a source will do damage to the chosen player or a permanent they control, it deals double the damage instead. It's like, okay. And then a lizard. And, Final Act. This card is kind of crazy. This is the Farewell, but in black, which is very good, very interesting. And then Siege Gang Lieutenant, which is interesting. But again, you see the thing here, right? Like, Final Act is very good in this deck because, again, destroy all creatures that just fills the graveyard. That's right up your alley. Or if you want, well, you can exile the graveyard, but that will be against yourself. Just clean the board and in your favor. That's very good. But a lot of other cards are just like, okay, like Tarmogoyf Nest. Okay, this is cool because you can just, it's an aura, so you can create a Tarmogoyf token. This is great. But we don't have Tarmogoyf cards, so just buy one. It's kind of expensive. They didn't want to. Like Exterminator Magmark, which doesn't fit thematically at any point with the rest of the deck. I'm going more card by card on this deck because I need you to understand something. Like this deck is the one that people are the most divided about. Whenever I play with it, I see people talking about it, etc. Like everyone agrees that the energy deck is the worst and the Eldrazi one is the best, or well, there is some debate because some people actually say that this one is the best, some people say that the other one is the best, but this one is either the worst or the best. There is no middle point, and when you see these cards, you get it. Because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only one single non-permanent your opponent controls, if Another opponent controls one or more non-permanents that spell would target. Choose one of those permanents. Copy that spell. The copy targets the chosen permanent. It's like, okay, and you can regenerate it from 1/1 black, which is like cool. And then you have Liliana of all freaking people. You have a planeswalker here, Liliana Death's Majesty, which is great. Great card, not gonna lie. This is why we have zombies in here. But because it mills cards, so I guess that's not what you want. It's just a planeswalker sitting there, which doesn't make much sense. Destroy target on a permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent, which is good for tokens, I guess. And that's it, because you're in Commander. Junji, the Midnight Sky. Again, it's kind of there. Everyone discards cards, and the graveyard to the battlefield. You know what I mean? Like Garruk is here. That's why we had the insignia or whatever token it is, right? And then River Cleaver, cool, I guess. Temple of Malady. See what I mean? Like, I'm just going to move faster now, but you have a Yorgoyf, and it's like, well, that's crazy. Look at that drawing. Power is equal to blah, blah, blah. Very basic. Selvala is here, which is like, okay, like thank you, I guess. Kessix Wolf Ruin, Archon of Cruelty. Okay, because this card's a card, so you just want to, again, like, and then you have Grist as well, because why not? Like, again, let's be fair here, right? I'm not dumb, you're not dumb. Necrogoyf, see, like, basically, you don't have that many Goyfs. But there are not that many Goyfs in this deck. I think there are like 8 or 10 Goyfs in a 100-card deck. So, your commander is not going that crazy. I think it has more dragons and dinosaurs put together than it has Goyfs. I need to do the math on that. But, you have some mana, you have some flexibility, you can destroy things, right? Like again, we're not dumb. We know what this deck is trying to do, right? What this deck is trying to do is, okay, you either have to mill yourself, mill everyone else, destroy things, send things to graveyard. Because the moment you have things in your graveyard, your power is going to increase. And the moment your power increases, you can start playing your game. Like, you will own the game, you know what I mean? Like, welcome, X-Men to die, right? Like another Urgoyf, Altar of the Goyf. Like, I love it that they reclaim such an old name as the Yorgoyfs, right? Lightning Greaves, right? It has some good reprints here as well. Like, all of these decks have like fairly good reprints, let's be honest. But again, like, you saw all these cards, right? I wanted to put some emphasis in here because you saw those cards. I was like, I don't know, 8 Goyfs at most? Cool. Whenever a Urgoyf permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere else, it's like, eh? Like, so the first ability from your commander is going to be used 8% of times or something like that. Like, because 100 cards, 8 cards are Urgoyf, so 8% of times you're going to use the first ability, which is okay, and only if you discard them from other plays that is not combat, which is weird because you will want to have the Goyfs in combat as fast as possible because the whole thing is about the graveyard. So it's like, whatever. And then whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to the player, you create a Tarmogoyf. And it's like, well, that's good. The first effect is just there, I guess, in case you lose a Goyf along the way and you can cheat it out, but they are not that expensive as creatures, so it's kind of whatever. The second effect is more important. You can just do multiple Tarmogoyfs, which is good because you can have an army of Tarmogoyfs or something like that in Commander where you can only have a copy of Tarmogoyf. So having Tarmogoyf tokens in, a deck that forces everyone to play with the graveyard is very good. But I kind of stop thinking that like half the Commander is not really. And you can be thinking like, oh, well, but no, like playing with the deck, you feel that a lot. Like the first ability, sometimes I even forget the first ability. You're only focusing attacking with one or more of your creatures to deal combat damage to the player. In which case, yes, you have dragons that fly, so that's cool. Because then you can create Tarmogoyfs, which on its own, again, Tarmogoyfs are, it's the boogeyman from the meta. Like, everyone knows the story of the Tarmogoyf. If not, there is a great video from Ristic Studies on it. But what are we doing with this? Like, again, this is Commander. You having like 3 Tarmogoyfs on the field, like they can be more or less tough because it's card types. Maybe if you're playing a very open Commander deck and like one has Planeswalkers, the other has enchantments and so on, like these things are going to be more or less beefy, but they don't fly. They don't do anything crazy. Like and it's 1v3. It's not modern 1v1. So you know what I mean? Like, and then the secondary commander actually resonates more with the deck, but not in a way that you feel like, oh, okay, this deck is all about Koram the Undertaker. No, it feels just like, well, Koram happens to be here and he's happy to be here because it's like, plus X plus 0 for the greatest creature. It's like, okay, greatest creature power. It's like, okay, you kill them all or just use a destroy creature or something. Immediately this gets its power, which is great. And then when you attack, everyone mills, including yourself, which is good. And again, if you have your commander and you're milling, maybe you get a Goyf back, but you have to pick a commander. You can have them both at the battlefield at the same time. It's kind of a rarity. And then during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards. So this is actually a better engine because the only thing you have to ensure is by using all the other cards in the deck is that you're going to destroy something that is kind of big, so that this guy is kind of big, but it doesn't have haste or any sort of protection. So I don't know, put some lightning greaves on it, which is why there are lightning greaves in the deck, right? Well, there's lightning greaves in any deck nowadays, but whatever. Like, put some lightning greaves, it gets protection, it gets haste, you get to attack, and everyone mills, which is good for you. And then you can put an extra land for free, which is very good ramp, which you don't have anywhere else, and you can cast a spell from there. Obviously, cast is not free, you have to pay the cost, but again, Koram the Undertaker seems like a better commander than Disa the Restless, and it's a shame because the moment I saw Disa, the description for this, because again, when you saw the boxes, because nowadays they just show the box and the themes first, and you go like, ugh, and you make like possibilities in your head because these things hype you up, right? Like the image, the colors, the name, the concept, those things hype you up. You're like, oh my god, what is this deck about? Like, maybe it's about this, maybe it's about that. And then it has nothing to do because fill your graveyard, true, avenge the dead, I guess. But this lady is a Goyf lady. So the moment the thing turns, like they revealed the spoilers of the commanders, and I see that Disa Jar Jar Binks, like I saw that Disa is a Goyf commander. My heart went crazy because I was like, yo, is this going to be like, like the Eldrazi deck or the from Commander Masters or the Planeswalker deck? Like they're going to release more cards of the Goyf type and cards specifically for Goyfs because Goyfs are powered by the graveyard. So it makes sense that everything is about the graveyard. And then it turns out that she kind of does things with Goyfs. She generates Goyfs, which is good, but nothing too crazy. And then you maybe can cheat Goyfs out of the graveyard with the other ability, and you only have 8 Goyfs in the entire deck. It's like, bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? Like, We're going to compare them better at the end, but now, for last but not least, Tricky Terrain. I was also interested in this one when I saw the description. Pretty much I was interested in all of them except the Eldrazi one. Well, I think the energy one, I was kind of, it's an energy deck because, it is what it is. Like, what am I going to do? Invent the wheel? But, which I hope, but no. So, Tricky Terrain, I was interested because I saw these twins and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so normally the visuals accompany the skills, right? So I was like, it's about copying or something. And then ramp lands grow value, and it's just green-blue. So it's like Simic, and the whole description they have is ramp lands. So it's basically just a ramp engine. What is it? What about that, right? The Soul Seeds of Devastation, Omo, Queen of Vesuva, which we're going to check in a second because Queen Omo is the shared title of identical twin sisters who rule Dominaria's island of Vesuva, bound together to act as one. And the text, land a perfectly synchronized smackdown. See, it's like a 3-way pun in there. I love it. So, what's the thing? This one, the last one, and these videos are long enough, but some of you use them as a podcast while you study or work or whatever, so that's good enough for me. Amazing art. And, the island of Vesuva, which is, Vesuvia much, but it is what it is. Again, in terms of tokens or counters, same. They didn't go crazy with the counters, which is a shame because I love when they do like more original things or more, at least, interesting things. But not even that, sadly. Like the box art is the same as the box art. The box art is the same as the box art. The counters or the tokens are pretty much the same, right? Which again, to be fair, let's be fair here. Let's be fair here for a second. Like no one cares about this, so I guess that they save money by not printing the commander in there, which is a shame because sometimes you like the commander a lot and you just want to have the life counter, right? Even if it's not, a super duper life counter. If you ask me, I would prefer to have a D20, but the commander is 40 points, so I guess it has to come with 2 D20s. And this cardboard thing is a lot more cheaper, but, at least put the commander art on it or something. It just feels so meh. And then, everything just feels meh, like disinterested. It's like, Wizards, come on, guys. Like if you're going to do this halfway, then don't give us the thing. Like we're already used to it. You already removed the plastic commanders from us, so whatever, right? But again, the sad thing is that these are the premium decks, which is funny, right? It's like, come on, if it's the premium decks. So Omo, Queen of Vesuva, great art, although they look a lot like statues more than like two living people. It's actually a shared name, but the Sisters' collaborative rule is enabled by a magical rite they voluntarily underwent when they assumed queenship. By surrendering their individual names and assuming a single one, they were bound together and capable of acting virtually as a single entity. They oversaw the reconstruction of Vesuva after its devastation during the Rift era, and have ever since been vigilant and maintaining its wards to protect the island from outsiders. I love it when they give us lore, because some people love magic lore. Another image, different drawing, by the way, a different quality of drawing at least, playing the deck. Lands take center stage, thanks to the might of Omo. Discover ways to make and use specific land types, from gates to Loki, and assemble powerful land-based combos from across the multiverse. Will you tap a single land for 10 mana, attack with 10 land creatures at once, or maybe awaken Married Lage, or Merit Lage, depends on how you want it. I think it's Married, because Merit, so Married Lage. Try to do all with the help of classic green and blue card, draw, mana acceleration, and huge creatures. Now, if you saw, like, you read this, and you read the box, right, I said like, oh, mana ramp, and I was like, whoa, land tribal, that's going to be interesting, because, they're not going to do anything crazy, but the good thing, whenever they pick an archetype, or whatever, to do a commander deck, is not so much the commander deck, because, they never put, like, super duper reprints. Ooh, Ugin's Labyrinth, let's go, baby! See, the entire video is worth it. Full art, foil, Ugin's Labyrinth. By the way, what does it do, and why was it useful in the Eldrazi deck? Well, imprint. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand, so an Eldrazi pretty much, and you can tap it for 1 colorless. If a card is exiled with Ugin's Labyrinth, you get 2 colorless, and you can tap to return the exiled card to its owner's hand, and then a Tireless Provisioner again, which is not bad, but this is a very good pull for a sample booster, so there you go. Now, the thing that always gets me excited is the 10 new cards, right? Or 20 new cards, or whatever new cards that they have. Because when you see those, you get like, ooh, okay, they're going to print new ideas for that archetype. And for like land tribal, all in for that. Now, this thing, depending on how you see life, this thing is either the best deck or the worst deck. Now, you have Married Lage, so, the big centerpiece in here. A Sand Warrior, which, ape. You know why there's an ape in here. I don't need to tell you why there's an ape in here. Plant, Forest Dryad, Boar, Beast, copy, another Beast, a 4/4, a 3/3, an insect, a zombie, elephant, Hydra, Boar again, zombie, plant, Beast, elephant, Forest Dryad, and Vivian Reed, I guess. So you already know some of the cards are going to show in here, and you know why there is an ape in here. If there is an ape, there is a way. So let's see the commanders. You have the main commander, Omo, Queen of Vesuva. So it's an interesting cost because it's 2 and 1 green or blue, which makes her a lot faster to pull. And it's a 1/5 Shapeshifter Noble. And it says, whenever Omo, Queen of Vesuva, enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Each land with an everything counter on it, it's every land type, in addition to its other types. Each non-land creature type with an each non-land creature with an everything counter on it, it's an every creature type. Now, when I saw this commander, when they spoiled the description of what the card does, I was like, sorry, what? Because I thought this was just land ramp, and it's true that the everything counter means that every land is every type of land. But if this lady is your commander, you can only do green and blue. Like, you can't go 5 colors. Like, this ability will be crazy in a 5-color deck. And don't get me wrong, you can have a 5-color commander and just add this card to the 99, and it's a good enabler. But because, whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, so, at least at the beginning, there is that. And then every creature type is also a very good enabler for like tribals and things like that, if you want to force hands or something. Plus, it says that you can put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land on target creature. It doesn't say that it's a card that you own or control. It's just cards, so you can actually change things, which is great. Then you have the other commander, which just feels there, which is Jyoti Moog Ancient, which is for 2/1 green, 1 blue, is a 2/4 that says, when Jyoti Moog Ancient enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token for each time you have cast your commander from the command zone this game. Okay, and at the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X until the end of turn, where X is Jyoti's power. Now, this feels a lot like this. Like, the first ability is okay, and I have my opinion on why this thing, like, they even has the text like they are affected by summoning sickness, like, just in case, like, don't get too crazy, boy. They get affected by summoning sickness, which is something that everyone knows, more or less, if you play Magic. But like, enters the battlefield, you create 1/1 like forest dryad land creature token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone. Like, let's just, for you to, land creature token. So it has summoning sickness and it gives you mana. So I guess that it's not that bad because, it's a mana dork. So if it died multiple times, you get free dorks that will give you mana. So there is that. They're affected by summoning sickness. Okay, and at the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X until the end of turn, where X is Jyoti's power. These two cards are trying to do stuff, and you will see that I don't know exactly what the deck is trying to do. The deck is not bad by any means, and you play with it and you just see the roll. But March from Veli's Veil. Choose a non-basic land type. Each land you control of that type becomes a copy of target creature you control at the end of turn. It gains haste of the end of turn, which is good, right? Because with everything tokens, everything you can put like, all the lands are forests or whatever, and you can say like, forests become a copy, so you have multiple copies of that creature, which is not bad, and you can have flashbacks, so you can play it twice. Not bad, but Wonderscape Sage, return a land you control to its owner's hand, draw a card, then discard the card unless that land had a non-basic basic land, which is okay. Copy land, you may have copy land enter the battlefield as a copy of any land on the battlefield except its enchantment in addition to its other types. Okay, Desert Warfare, a desert. So this deck also feels like, and it really feels like Wizards is starting to sell decks as a subscription service or something, because the energy deck it's like two decks. It feels like they had a bunch of good ideas for energy decks, and they were like, okay, one for Fallout, and we can't put that much new cards in Fallout, so let's do one for Modern Horizons. And it's like, okay, so we do half and half because they are the same freaking colors. So it's like same deck, like not much to do there. It's like, okay. Then Eldrazi is like an easy one. It's just like more honky donkey, boom, 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 boom. Yorgoyf, I don't know where they did that or why they did that. But this one feels like, remember the desert land theme deck from Thunder Junction? That is actually the worst deck in my opinion. The one that has the commander that is basically the Mandalorian with Grogu. Well, they insisted. It's like, well, this is a desert. You have a card here for deserts. It's like, why isn't this card in the other deck? Like, why would you put it here? Like, what are you waiting me? Like, you want me to buy both? Like, yeah, well, I did because I am that person. But like, what is this? Like land locus, okay, cool. Creature, elf, wizard. Like you have like land desert. See, you have a bunch of mana dorks. Rampant Frogan 2 gets +10/+10 for each player who has lost the game, which is woo. Whenever there is combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. Put any number of land cards onto the battlefield tapped. So you get some crazy cards in here. You get a cave as well because from Caverns of Ixalan. Remember that? And you know, it's like you get all types of lands. It's not so much ramp, but as it is types of land. Like, oh, you have a gate. Remember gates? Gate of Madara. So Naruto is going to appear at any point now. Jellyfish, Hydra, Beast, because we don't have any more types. So you have an elephant. Cool. Then you have a land, which is if you control enters a battlefield tapped, and then you can create a Hydra from it, which is like, okay, very cool. Nissa, Steward of the Elements. It's like, oh, okay. Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Again, Human Wizard, land. So again, I'm not complaining that a land deck has lands by any means, because that's cool. That's what I wanted. Just wanted lands. It just feels like there's a lot of cards here. Like that one for deserts and all that is like, my brother, why isn't that in the other deck? Why do you sell me like Vivian Raid? Like, it's interesting that they put Planeswalkers in here. Like, but why would you sell me not half, but like a deck that really feels like, you know, you had the cards. You know what I mean? Like, you had the cards. You could do like a super duper deck, and you were like, nah, we're just going to split this. You know, we're going to split this mofo up. Like, no one, like legendary is no land. Let's go land. Like, I don't dislike this deck. I just the whole, you know, desert specific new desert card is but see, like the Urza Trinity is here because there are different types of lands. So Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower, Urza's Mine. They're not in the Eldrazi deck, which is interesting to say the least. Gates, then you have all the usual, but you have a bunch of different types of lands because it's just two colors, so they can just go all over the place. And the idea is to convert your lands into things and just attack with them, which is not that bad. And to be honest, I like this deck. See, Punkify is here, obviously, that's why we have an ape. Like, it's interesting. And to a degree, if you, depending, like, I mean, you know your pod, but even if you don't know your pod, you know that there are a lot of big no-nos in Commander. And this deck has a sort of big defense against some of the big no-nos in Commander, which is land destruction. A lot of your creatures and all that stuff are just lands that you convert, for better or worse, because sometimes you don't have good defenses. You have a lot of cards here to protect you from some stuff, but it is what it is. So they can destroy your lands. You're going to get a bunch of lands that do a bunch of weird things, and that's kind of the play here. It feels like a better version of the desert deck from Thunder Junction. The deck from Thunder Junction just feels like very bad, and I don't like it at all. So, and I tried. I played like 5 times with it, and I actually won like, I played like 5 times with it. I won like 3 games with it, which is like, what? But like, I never felt good playing with it. I think that I won because people just assumed that it's like, oh, it's that deck. Like no one attacked me. But which is a polar opposite of like the Eldrazi deck. You pull the Eldrazi deck, everyone, you become the Archenemy immediately because it's like, oh, he has Eldrazi, right? That's how it is what it is. Now, you saw those cards in here, and why they wanted to show you the cards? Okay, now you saw the cards. You saw that there is a bunch. I mean, pause the video whenever you see a card that you want to read better. Just check the deck list, but there's a bunch of cards that do all sorts of things, and you're like, okay, cool, that's interesting. And it's like, it is, my brother, and yet, why would we have these commanders? So this commander has nothing to do with the rest of the deck, at least not in a useful fashion. Like, this one doesn't feel like commander material, or at least it feels like commander material if you really build around it, because it's like, well, every time it dies, if you summon it again, you get more Forest Dryad land creatures, so you get mana dorks, and at the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X+X, where X is its power. She's like, okay, like, you really need to build around this, which the deck is not really. So this second commander just feels like, okay, you know, like, okay, it's there, cool. But Omo is the weirdest case of I was double fooled, like, because you see this, you know, ramp lands, grow values, like, okay, it's not technically a lie. You see all the cards are in the deck, you start playing the deck, you realize that the whole deck is all about lands and ramping and adding stuff and converting your lands into stuff, and, you know, paying for a lot of things, converting your lands into things. So lands is the name of the game, which is great. Like, so the box technically didn't lie to me, but then you see the commander, and I don't get what this commander is supposed to do here. Like, this commander feels like it will be the greatest commander ever if it was, like, well, one of the best commanders ever, at least for ramp, if it had 5 colors on it, even 4. But with green blue, which are, you know, is already a very rampantic color combination, whenever it enters the battlefield attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. So 1 land and 1 creature become everything. So they are everything. Which the everything for lands triggers with a couple of things in the deck. That's very good, but the everything for creatures, not so much. Although if it's a land creature, it can trigger. It doesn't feel like the deck is built for her, which is very weird. And it's a double, I don't know. I was saying like mistake, or this. It's like a double deception. Like, I thought something from looking at the box, and I was like, oh, okay, the deck is going to be about this. Then I read the command, and I was like, oh, we're going to do that. And then it's like, no, not really. The commander is just there. It's kind of cool, I guess. But, you know, that's it. And it feels just meh. But now we're going to rank them and see which one goes where and which one do we prefer. So these are the 4 bad boys, the 4 main commanders for the decks, and we're going to use them as representations of the decks. So summarizing, you're like, Mofo, we've been here for 2 hours, and now you summarize? Like, yep, my bad. So Energy, Eldrazi, Graveyard. I was about to say Goyfs, but it's really Graveyard, and lands. In terms of synergy between the commander and its deck, more or less these, I guess. So the most synergistic, because it's an energy deck after all, so there you go. Then the second synergistic, because it's just colorless and Eldrazi's and stuff like that. And then these ones, their effects apply. They just don't apply all the time and 100%, and the deck just doesn't feel. Now, when it comes to secondary commander capabilities, I think the order is more or less the same, actually. Like, well, actually, no. Like this. So the secondary commanders from each deck are, this secondary commander just fits, gives you like complete flexibility in another direction. This works. The secondary commander here works. The secondary commander here works. The secondary commander, I don't like it at all. It doesn't feel like commander material. So maybe I'm dumb. I don't know. So there is that. in terms of like secondary commander and commander. Now, you're maybe surprised that this deck that everyone says like is the worst, it's so far won 2 rankings, and the reason is, well, you can be like, oh, because you didn't expect anything, right? So that's why you got surprised. Like, well, maybe, but at the same time, it's because it really depends on what you look for in a deck, right? I'm looking at these decks as what I always tell you in these videos, which is you buy the deck to play with the deck as is. Maybe you change a couple of cards, because that's the beauty of a commander deck. You evolve it. It evolves with you, right? That's the beauty of commander. But in this case, but a lot of times you just buy the precon to play with the precon as is, and then you change here and there. And the energy one just kind of works. It's not the most powerful one, but the commanders really feel there. Now, in terms of decks as a whole, like, you know, just out of the box, how complete does it feel? How complete in the sense that it doesn't feel like you got scammed with half a deck, or that half of the cards in the deck don't do anything. I think that it's somewhere along these lines, like these 3 are in the same, more or less. Yes, this card, this deck, the Eldrazi deck, is the one that feels the most complete, but I wouldn't say it is because of merits. I will say it's because of demerits. So this deck is between energies and creating servos, so it's 2 decks into one, I guess. Both are compatible, but it's not like a... This deck, the commander is kind of in one direction, the co-commander is kind of in the same direction or another direction, and then it's all about lands. So the deck feels united. The commanders don't feel that united with the deck. And this one is all about goyfs, your goyfs, and graveyard, but the co-commander feels more like it. This kind of feels like it, so, you know, actually... But the Eldrazi deck is everything is colorless, and everything is the void, and everything is Eldrazi, so everything feels very on topic, I guess. So, you know, it is what it is. Now, in terms of fun playing with them, and this is completely subjective. If you want to see like monetary value, this is not the channel for it. In terms of subjective fun, you're gonna hate me for this, but well, I don't like energy as a mechanic that much, so, you know, it is what it is. But I guess like this, you know, in terms of fun, and you may be like, what the fuck, but you just said that this one is like, yeah, this commander feels detached from the deck, but the deck I think is very fun. One thing that you have to understand my rating on like subjective, you know, opinions, like which deck is the most fun to play with, is that I always like Magic decks that are, as I call them, diagonal. Like, they are not your straightforward Magic deck that is just like, oh, every dragon gets +2/+2, or like graveyard tribal, or, you know, stuff like that. It's like, that is cool, but it's just so done that it's just like, you can have a graveyard deck or a dragons deck or whatever deck, and it can be eternal, and in each new set, you just look for cards that fit and maybe swap one or another, and the deck is eternal. What I like is decks that defy angles of play, or that really feel crazy to play with, like crazy ideas. And if those ideas are well executed, that's better. That's why I like Timey-Wimey so much, because it's just a crazy idea. So, well, not a crazy idea, but it's a crazy angle to execute with a time counter. So on that logic, this is just energy counters, so it doesn't feel like super original, it doesn't feel like too crazy, and I don't like energy counters that much. So it's not bad, but I don't feel it as fun. This one is funnier because with both the commander and the co-commander, it's all about graveyard hate and putting, well, not graveyard hate, graveyard love, and putting and using other graveyards for your sake. So not bad. This one is kind of interesting because I also like heavy accounting decks that you have to like do the math for a lot of things. And whenever you trigger either the commander or the co-commander, the secondary commander, you have to do a bunch of hey, and this goes here, and this multiplies, and this goes that, right? So I like that, and since I like that, I like what this deck does. I don't like it because it's Eldrazi, but I like it that if you play it properly, you can copy a bunch of stuff, and it just does a snowball. Now, it is fun for me. I don't mind being the arch nemesis, but I have to say that if you are a normal person and just want to have fun, this deck, maybe it's not going to be the funniest thing for you, because you're going to become the arch nemesis. The moment people see this thing in your command zone shining, they're going to be like, oops, Eldrazi. And like, even if they go like, okay, it's 2-5, even if they get like scared of this cost, they're like, oh, it's a 2-5. The moment they read the skill, the ability is like, oh, okay, we need to kill this guy ASAP, because otherwise this thing is going to be crazy. Now, this deck is funny because of that logic, I like this deck. It's very angular. It's very like lands do everything. And I like that unconventional way of playing. It's basically a land tribal, so technically it's a tribal deck anyway, but there's a couple of cards here that are very interesting. Now, the commander doesn't make it for me, which is a shame, but I think this commander can be crazy good in a deck that is specifically made for that. But I guess we have to wait for that to happen. So, right? Like, it is what it is. Now, in terms of which deck I think is better constructed, well, it's kind of the same logic as with the commanders, right? Like, this one is easy because everything is Eldrazi, so there you go. This one is better constructed, and then these two are not bad, same, one being on top of each other doesn't mean anything. They are at the same level, right? The problem is that the commander, this connection is kind of there. However, I've seen people saying that this deck is the best of all of them, and this deck is the best of all of them. Now, mathematically, this deck, because of monetary value and all that, this is technically the best deck. I don't agree with, but these decks are funnier to play with and very aggressive if you play with them. This one feels kind of boring, to be honest. So this deck, I mean, if you like energy tokens, it's going to make your day, but if you don't, this is always kind of meh. And this one is just interesting, but it's not a Eldrazi deck at the end of the day. So I will put these two on the same level in terms of global fun for most people, like not for nerds like me, and I will be like this. This is the combination. So these two are the funniest ones to play with, and these two are the most boring ones to play, I guess. In terms of personal preference, after all, like considering all the things, funnier thing to play, blah, 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 I would say, I know that you're like, you this deck so much, and yet, it's like, yep. So it will be something like this, right? More or less the same mix as the other. Like, this will be my ranking for these decks, more or less. Again, not considering financial value, other than that, that's usual. But hey, that was the video, a short video. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about this podcast and what you think about my takes. If you aim at buying one of these, if you already did, what are your experiences? Do you agree with my takes? Do you don't agree? Please share your takes, because again, I am playing with these decks, and sometimes I share them with my friends. I also get their opinions because that's part of the magic. Haha, the gathering. But I also like to see people's takes of just playing with the deck right as it is, and how did it felt, because all these videos is all either financial value or just like reprints or upgrades and so on. And I love those videos, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just want to play with the deck as is and analyze the deck as is. And in those cases, I am like, tell me your opinion, tell me what's up, and let me know down below if you want me to open the other decks. And as usual, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all those cool things that the cool kids do, and I will see you next time on PAX and Recreation. Bye.